Good afternoon, guys. That's Adam Russell, um, doing the workplace observation speech today. My workplace is Culver's, mentioned previously a few times. I was very excited to see that we had this speech to do eventually because you can ask anybody that I know, and I'm always making observations that I'm more than happy to talk about in my workplace, though usually 5 to 7 minutes has never been enough time. I'm sure they would tell you the same. What I've decided to talk about today is kind of on the side of neutral. I didn't want to be critical or be singing the praises of the operation at my workplace. Um, it's something that I feel also applies to a lot of other work environments. Anyone that's subject to the ebbs and flows of rising and decreasing demands throughout the day or throughout the shift. And what I'm going to talk about is it's something I see every time we go into a lunch rush. If our lobby fills up, first there's this look on people's faces like, oh crap, what's going to happen? Because they know that we're about to get hit and it's going to be really busy. And that's when the order kind of falls out and it gets a little more chaotic. And I think that stresses people out for a couple of reasons. The number one, I feel, is fear of being publicly ridiculed. I'll get back to that. Now, I think of this as the frenzy state. And you can recognize it if you ever walk into a quick service restaurant and you see people just moving a million miles an hour. Their hands are moving faster than their minds are, so they don't really seem to know what they're doing, but they're moving fast. I think that people do this to avoid being targeted by the management during those crazy times because the management freaks out because they've lost control and they don't want to look like it's their fault. So they sit there, turn around, and start to criticize the work that other people are doing, trying to assign the blame of why there's these order times that are longer than they're supposed to be. Now, what it all comes down to, obviously, is just being overwhelmed. The business is over a capacity of what you're staffed for at the time. And the solution to this is to just accept, first off, that the order times are going to be a little longer. Not to make the situation worse by getting everybody all flustered. Stick to your procedure, and while sticking to that procedure, being in acceptance of the fact that you're going to be working hard for a little while. It takes the stress out of it, and that makes it a lot more tolerable of a situation to run into at work. Now, the fear that I mentioned comes from, in my workplace, this is unfortunately true. It didn't used to be where I used to work at a different Culver's store. But I feel like it's also true in a lot of different work environments where what's driving people to work fast and go into that frenzy state to avoid being targeted is the fear of being publicly criticized or ridiculed in the middle of that rush in front of everybody, being told what they're doing wrong. I think it's important for a manager to realize that things are going to go wrong and not to fault their workers for making mistakes when everything pops off the wall, because order is lost to some degree. And if the manager adds to the frenzy and the fear and adds to the factors that are making people act irrationally and without thinking, they're going to cause more mistakes, which will make them even more angry at their employees. The key here is to accept what you've got at the given point, whatever amount of errors are being made, but make careful observation of where they're being made and consider solutions to those problems. It's important then to follow up with the crew in private. If it's anything critical, you want to pull them aside before they go home at the end of the night and just mention the things that they can improve on. A good way to do this is to begin with something you saw them do positively. Follow that up with an area that they could work on and end with another positive note. And obviously to do that, you have to actually pay attention to your workers so that you have specific things you can comment on. And that's all part of the boss's job. I feel like leadership is really not about yelling at your employees and controlling them, but training them to a level where you can trust them to perform to your standards and letting them do their job the way that they know how to. And when things go wrong, a leader should be able to take the blame or accept the responsibility and come up with a solution rather than putting that down to the people below them. Anyways, the point here is, during coaching moments at work, try to keep it to private settings. Although on the other hand, anytime you have something good to say, or you see people doing something the way you want it to be done, it's important to recognize that. And that is something you want to do in front of everybody. Anyways, this is just one subject that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, and I'm sure there's others out there who've seen the same thing. Feel free to leave any comments you've got. I'm always looking for a way to get this out to my crew, and this is what I would say to them if I ever had enough time at once to lay it all out to them. But hopefully we can get that through and work towards a better goal. Anyways, have a good day, guys. Thanks for watching.